just kind of start.
Okay, you start, girl.
And
I'll be looking at you the whole time.
Sounds good. Yeah.
When I start laughing, you'll start laughing.
oh my God, okay. Oh yeah, we introduce us as, what are we again?
Sassy
I keep
and
thinking
sold.
Sexy and sassy, but it's sassy and sold.
Oh, I don't know where sexy is, but
I know,
sassy's
it
good.
just pops into my head for some reason. Okay, so do we start off with hey everyone? Can't remember.
Yes. Yash is yes.
Like an introduction.
Okay.
This is our podcast. And
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. Nicole and Heather, and we are Sassy and Sold.
We sure are.
Aren't we? And today we are lucky enough to have two home inspectors, and we know how popular and important home inspection is in real estate.
Yes.
So welcome to Jim Elliott and his son Rourke. And Jim has been in the business for such a long time.
Yes, too long.
And we're so excited, Rourke, to
Yes.
have you in the business because home inspectors are harder and harder to find ever since COVID, eh?
Yeah.
Wiped out a whole bunch of home inspectors because every offer we did during that time was cash. There were no home inspections, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So we're thrilled to have you because we know you have a very busy schedule.
Yes.
And it's sometimes hard to book you because you're booked, right?
Yes.
So anyway, we have a whole bunch of questions to ask. Do you want to start with
I
questions?
will. So welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. So first question, Jim.
Yes.
What training and certificates do you have to be a home inspector?
So in the province of Ontario, there actually is no requirement for anybody to hold certificates, which is not good for me or you or the general public. But that's just the way it is in Ontario. Ontario hasn't been regulated since home inspection began in 1970s. I am a certified home inspector registered through the Association of Home Inspectors and have been carrying that registration since 2004. So 21 years that I've been doing home inspections.
Nice.
But tomorrow you could go out and say you're a home inspector, and there's nothing in the province of Ontario that prohibits you from doing that.
That's crazy.
Right.
It's scary, and I'm sure people do that.
Absolutely,
I'm a
yeah,
home
and that's
inspector.
why it's very important to have somebody that knows what they're looking
Oh,
at.
yeah.
And it protects the home inspector because if they don't know what they're looking at, it's a big liability. But it also protects you as the realtor who refers the home inspectors and the clients. You want to make sure they're having somebody professional, no matter whether it's somebody looking at your house or working on your car or whatever it may be. You want to have somebody that's qualified and has the knowledge to do it and has that training behind them.
Well, I would think too, just in our experience, we can tell, and a buyer hopefully can tell when you're speaking of things that don't make sense,
Right.
or you're not,
Yeah.
And I've had you many, many times, and a buyer has said to me, how thorough you are,
Right.
right? Because
Yeah.
you are very thorough, and that's what we need.
Yeah, and it's
know?
important to look at all aspects of the home and be thorough. Not only for, that's what the client's paying for, but also to cover my butt.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
if something does go wrong down the road,
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you know what you're looking at and you have covered all your bases when inspecting the home.
Right. And the other thing too, okay, this just popped into my head now, insurance for home
Absolutely.
inspectors.
Yes,
I know
correct.
it's huge
Yes,
compared to us as realtors, which
Yeah.
doesn't make a lot of sense.
yes.
But how these fly-by-night people that just all of a sudden, I'm a home inspector.
Right.
They wouldn't
Quite-
have
Do they
it.
Quite
not
like-
have to do
don't
something
have
to
it,
get
no.
insurance?
Well, quite likely they wouldn't have insurance.
No.
So the insurance,
that's true.
The insurance industry for home inspections is very limited. There's not many people that do cover errors and omission
Yeah.
insurance for inspectors.
Yeah.
And in order to be part of that group plan, you have to be a certified inspector and you have
Yeah.
to have so much experience. They wouldn't just take anybody without qualifications. And you're right, it is a very expensive insurer. The errors and omissions, we were just talking about that earlier today. And
yes.
it's got a renewal. It's $8,000 just for the errors and omissions
Wow.
insurance.
So you have to do a lot of inspections just to even cover your insurance.
Yes, exactly. Just
Right.
to break even, cover the costs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are some guys that try and do it part-time. And part-time, when your insurance
Yeah.
cost is so high, it's it's
That's
difficult.
really gone up. Wow.
Yeah, it is. It is
Yeah.
crazy.
Wow.
Because there's such a huge liability as well.
Yeah,
right?
there
If
is.
there's a problem, could potentially have millions of dollars in lawsuits.
Yeah. It's crazy, eh?
Okay, so next question, and if Rourke, if you want to try answering this, who do you think should have a home inspection?
So really, everyone should have a home inspection. Realtors for the pre-listing agents, and then also the buyers as well. It's just good to know what you're looking at when you're getting into buying a home, and even if you're owning a home for a little while there, it's good to get with someone in just to see what work you might be coming up on in the next couple of years there. So it's just good to get someone that's trained in there with proper certification, just to see every
agree.
aspect of the home.
That is really helpful.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's nothing worse, than finding out
After.
midway through the deal that,
Yeah.
it's nice for a seller to get a pre-listing home inspection. Not everybody does, but it's helpful to have that, or at least for sure a buyer during the conditional
Right.
period, because, not everybody is an expert.
No,
and they need to
exactly,
find these things
A lot of people
out.
think they are.
A lot of people do.
Yes.
And as Rourke
Very
touched
true.
on, it's the pre-inspection. I always equated a pre-inspection to buying a car certified or uncertified. If you buy it certified by a mechanic, you know that the brakes have been looked at, and you know what needs work or doesn't need work. You just go in with eyes wide open. Whereas if buying a house without having an inspection, you don't know what you're getting. And people sure will maybe, they might have an uncle that come in and look at the electrical, but he doesn't get up in the attic and look at the insulation. So we do, thorough investigation of all parts of the house. And that way it covers all bases, not just having an uncle. And I've ran into the situation over my 20 years that, we've had an uncle come in and look at the house, and there's certain things that he didn't look at. And then, they have a flood in their basement. Well, that always makes Christmas dinner uncomfortable when the uncle's
Awkward.
there, because he's not insured and they've got this damage that they're, relied on him to look at. And
Well,
so
I
it's
think too,
difficult.
it goes the other way too, where maybe it's over fear. They create more fear than is necessary
Potentially, yes. Yeah.
because they're trying to protect their relative,
Yes.
right? But
Yeah.
it could go the other way where it just kills the deal for no reason.
Right. The comment I get a lot is when dad comes to the inspection and wants to see the house, but he's always looking out for his little girl, right?
Right.
And it's like, this doesn't meet code. Well, of course it doesn't meet code. The house was built in 1950, right?
Right.
So it doesn't have to meet code. It just has to work. Yeah.
Well, what I like about you as well is you have solutions. Like, it's not life or death many, many times.
Yeah.
It's a simple fix.
Well, everything can be repaired.
Everything's
It's just
fixable, yeah.
what is the cost, right?
Right.
Is it a minor cost or a major cost? Yeah.
That's true.
That is very true. Okay.
All right. So, Nicole, this question is for you. Should the buyers attend the home
Oh,
inspections?
definitely, if they can.
Yeah.
I mean, as realtors, we go to the inspection.
Yeah.
And I think, and another thing is, you guys are good because you explain things as you go
Right.
Yeah.
to a buyer. And we've been at ones before,
Yeah.
right? First time home buyer, they don't have a clue.
Yep.
And so they really do get educated. And you're showing them the components of their future home.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's to teach them about the house. It's not necessarily to find problems. I don't want to go in there and find problems because they've
No.
obviously loved the home. They made an offer on it. They're
Yeah.
they're picturing their future there. I don't want to go in and find problems and destroy their dream, but it's to teach them about the home, how to work it, how
And
to
our
operate
dream.
it. Yeah. You want to close the deal. You don't
Just
want to
kidding.
kill it, but if a deal needs to
Yeah.
be killed, it needs to be killed. But
Yeah.
you teach them about the home, and I've had people that are in their 50s and 60s and come through the home inspection with me, and they say, "Oh, at the end of the day, I learned something." I'm like, that's great that I'm teaching
Yes.
somebody something who thought they knew about a house, right?
Yeah.
But definitely first-time home buyers who don't know.
Yeah.
They may be very smart in computers, but don't understand how a furnace works or whatever it may be.
Excuse
So
me.
It's important to attend and understand the scope of it, because sometimes what I find too is people don't attend the inspection, and then they're just reading through the report and they
Yeah.
think this is a huge problem, when really it's a $50 fix.
Well, and then visually it's relatable when you've
Yeah.
been there.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So you look for solutions, not problems.
Try and walk them through the solution. Yeah,
Right.
It's not to scare them out of it. It's to educate them.
I have something in my throat.
Not a problem.
So sorry.
It's okay.
Well, and the thing is too, I think a lot of times, yeah, you're right. There's always going to be maintenance
Yes.
on a house. You don't just buy a house and that's it for the rest of your life. There's going to be maintenance, like a car,
Yes.
where you have to address these things because it doesn't take care of itself, right?
And we always get the question, what's the big problems that you find in homes? The big problems are the little things. If you don't fix the little things, they create big problems.
That's so
And
true.
gutters and grading, water control is very important, and that often gets overlooked. Cleaning the gutters, such a simple thing, but that's usually one of the big problems with homes, that people don't do that, and then you end up with water in the basement because the gutters were clogged.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty. Okay, question number 4. Either of you guys, and you've kind of touched on this, but what areas of the home will you inspect?
So we looked at every aspect of the home. So we start outside typically, and we look at the structure and the roofing, and we work from the basement up through the home there, looking at all the mechanical, so the heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical, and then work our way through the home there, looking for any defects and minor defects of the home, really. And then we explain to the customer and kind of work through the solutions to the problems there. And then we can work our way through the rest of the home up into the attic and look at all the insulation levels and everything like that. So yeah, really every aspect of the home there.
That's perfect.
And as you've touched on as well, as we're going through the home, when clients hopefully walking around with us, we can point things out to them. We can make recommendations for improvements, like attic insulation. But there's other things that, as Rourke touched on, we look at the electrical, plumbing, but there's not just looking at it, but it's understanding what you're looking at, because there's lots of types of plumbing that are an insurance concern. There's types of wiring that are insurance concern, that making sure that everything not necessarily is up to code, but is safe. And it's making sure that that's there for the people.
And insurable.
And insurable, yes, yeah. Yeah, there's lots
Yeah.
of problems with different products that people not necessarily aware of outside of the field of inspection, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember when I started in the business in 97, there was really no home inspectors out
Yeah.
there,
Right.
nor, there might have been one. And,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yeah, I just thought,
we
yeah.
just conditional on a home inspection, like that was just
Yes.
not even heard of,
Yeah.
It's
I've been doing it since 2004.
Yeah.
I was trained through Carson Dunlop. Carson Dunlop's a big firm out of Toronto. They brought home inspection to Canada from the States in 1974. So it's been around since
Yeah.
74, but probably,
Didn't
like you
catch
said,
on,
late
yeah.
90s before it became popular.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay. Number 5 is, how long will the home inspection normally take? Either you guys want to?
So typically it lasts about an hour and a half. Of course, it depends on what we find throughout the home and what all we have to report to the customer, and then how long the explanations take of that. Particularly, we're there for about an hour and a half to 2 hours for the home inspection there.
Yeah, it's
Of
really
course.
dependent on the home. I can get a big 3,000 square foot home that takes an hour and a half, and I can get a 700 square foot cottage that takes 3 hours.
Yeah, depends
It's
on the
not
size.
necessarily size doesn't mean longer.
Right.
It's how like we're commented, it's what we find. So if we're documenting every 5 feet that there's another problem, versus walking through a home that's in great condition and there's nothing to report really.
Yeah,
Time can really vary. Yeah, for sure. The crawl spaces or take
Yeah.
longer to get in and out of versus a big house that's got a big basement. So there's different variances. So it really depends, but usually hour and a half to 3 hours is kind of where
The
we're at.
average.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know from a realtor's point of view, because there was a time where we didn't attend them. We didn't have to attend them,
Yeah.
But now,
but now we do. But when it first started that we had to attend them, we're like, oh my God, like I have 16 appointments today. And if I have to go to a 3-hour home inspection. So we're always happy when it doesn't take very long. But at the same time, we do want
It
you
needs
to be thorough. You
It
have
needs
to be
thorough.
thorough,
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, of course, size would definitely matter.
And that comes with experience. Like I said, I've been doing inspection 21 years,
Yeah.
so you kind of get a routine. And you get a little
Yeah.
bit faster and better at it.
Yes.
Rourke's worked with me for about a year now, and he's kind of learned my routine, and
Yeah.
he gets it. So he's very thorough, but he's also
Yes.
he doesn't take 4 or 5 hours.
I
either.
think some people equate they equate the time with the quality, which
Yeah.
isn't so.
they,
No,
yeah.
exactly.
It isn't so.
Quality and price, and like, well, if it only took you an hour and a half,
Yeah.
it should be less money. But it's experience and knowledge.
Yeah. Or did you do everything? Because it's only an hour and a half. But like
Right.
you already said, if there's nothing serious to report or there's
Yes.
no big red flags, then you can go quicker,
right.
right?
Exactly.
And I guess too, it would make a difference perhaps if you have, because sometimes a buyer can't make it. They're working and they can't make it. So I guess that affects it too, because you can kind of
Go faster.
Go
Definitely.
faster,
I mean,
yeah.
how many questions
When
they
you're not
have,
asking questions.
They're not explaining. You're not
Yeah.
explaining. They're not asking questions. Typically, if the buyer's not there, we're just taking a lot more photos so that we can describe things
Yeah.
to them with the photos if they're not able to. But definitely would encourage them to be there for at least part of it so we can walk
Mm-hmm.
through together and talk about things. And it depends who else is there too, because sometimes mom and dad and the uncle and the grandparents all come along, and then they all have questions,
Yeah.
so it can take longer. But I find that sometimes is too distracting for the buyer.
Yes.
What happens if mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and the aunt and uncle and the brothers all come along?
Yeah.
The buyer doesn't get a one-on-one experience to ask questions or to retain the information that we're providing them because they're distracted by what their mom's showing them or something like that. So I think it's there's a fine balance, but I think it's best if the home inspection is just for the buyers and bring mom and dad on a second viewing.
Yes, for sure. And actually, that just brought another thought to me. So when you're doing a home inspection for a buyer, because I know I've had this happen, where the seller insisted on being there.
Yeah.
That's
And
always
it's
helpful.
horrible, right? Because it's almost already, there's a combative
Yes.
thing going
don't
on
wanna
where
say anything.
I'm smarter than the home inspector.
Yeah.
This is my house,
Yes.
right? And they
Yeah.
don't want to hear it. So
Yeah.
that's a tough
It's
one
a
for
delicate
us. It's tough for
situation,
you.
yes.
Yeah. How do you
Yeah.
handle that?
So that's happened many, many times where the seller is there and they're following you around even more than the buyer is following you around, and so I just try and keep my information to myself, and then we'll have a private discussion with the buyer.
Oh yeah,
later.
because they're
It's
not
not their
privy to that
business.
information
Yeah,
because they're
and
not paying you.
Even if there's nothing wrong, it's still not their business because
No.
it still could become a negotiation point for you,
Right.
and it's all confidential. So it's their report, it's
Yeah.
their information.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into a
No,
he
no.
said, she said, or combative thing back and forth with the seller at the time.
Well, we encourage we say to the seller, no, if it's our listing, of course, no,
Yeah.
no,
You're
you
better
can't
off.
be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
And typically, if dad comes, I charge more.
That's a good one.
That's funny.
All right. Well,
Okay, so the next question is, do you offer a written report after the inspection?
Right, so we used to print out the report on site there, but we're kind of getting away from that just because the technology in the world now is getting so advanced. So we email out interactive PDF file for the report there. So it has all the different components of the home in the inspection that we went through there. So we email it out to the client after the inspection there, and then once they get the report, they can feel free to text or call us if they have any questions or concerns with the report, if they weren't able to attend the inspection, and they kind of want to walk through of how the report's laid out for them. So it's an emailed out report, and then we can also discuss the report as well over the phone if they weren't there.
That's perfect, and then they have it for many years,
Yeah, it used to be the
after.
old binder system where you had
Yes.
to fill
Oh,
out-
dear,
that's-
yes.
Rourke doesn't know anything about that. That's the prehistory. to
Yeah,
it.
and it would be like yay thick.
Yeah,
I
a
have
big
shelves
thick
of
binder that
binders at
nobody ever
home.
looked at. So what I found with the computerized report is nice because you can insert photos of the house, so it's very specific to the house. It's not just a generic photo in a binder. It's very detailed more to the house that way. It is something that's on your computer forever, right? And actually it's on our server forever and ever. So even if you lose your computer, we still have a digital copy of it. It's a PDF report. It's typically about 30 to 35 pages long. You did one the other day. How long was it?
It was about 70 pages because it was a bigger home with a couple outbuildings as well, so it was
Yeah.
a little bit longer of a report, but you want to be in depth regardless of the home that you're looking at, so it was a little bit longer there.
Yeah, so lots of detail on the home.
Can you pre-sell those to, like if the deal fell through and then I have a new buyer who wants that same house?
Yes and no. I mean, the report is specific to the house. So it's not like, you did an inspection and it's your inspection. It is because you've paid for it. But my liability and our liability is to the house, not to the seller, not to the buyer, not to the agent. It's to the house. And if there's a problem with the house, we're the one that's going to be held liable to it. So that's why the report is very specific. But where it gets into contract law with lawyers is, you had a contract with me to do the inspection, and then you didn't buy the house for whatever reason, and then Joe Blow bought the house, but I don't have a contract with Joe Blow, and Joe Blow tries to sue me down the road or something like that. So typically what we do in a situation like that is if you want to sell the report to Joe would then pay me $100 or just to have some type of a transaction back and forth, and I would do a walkthrough of the house with him to show
That's
him what
better.
we looked at together.
Oh, okay.
Because for him to, again, just to look at the report, it's now third hand, he's reading through it, maybe doesn't understand exactly what we're saying. So to cover our liability and to give him better service, we do a walkthrough with him, say, this is what we meant, this is what we're talking about, this is what we're
Yeah.
looking at. And then we have a bond or a contract that way, so that our liability is now, our liability is still to the house, but we still have some type of customer service base with the
To the
third
client.
Well,
party.
that makes sense because really let's say in the case of a 70-page,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So the buyer's like, yeah, I'm going to sell it to the next buyer.
There's a
Right?
lot to unpack in a 70-page report that he might skim
yeah.
over a couple pages and not
Right?
see
Like,
everything
I mean, if
within
I
the
had a
report.
70-page report, I'd be like, oh, dear God, I don't have time for this.
right.
I would rather pay the $100
Yeah.
and have you go through
And get it explained
the
to
really
you.
important
Yes.
parts of it.
So where that comes into play a lot is real estate agents will do a pre-listing inspection. So the agent's actually paying for the inspection out of their pocket, or maybe the seller's paying for it, but it's a pre-listing inspection on that house. You're not going to keep the inspection report because you're not buying the house. The seller doesn't want it because he's selling the house. So there's a third-party buyer coming in. So for the third-party buyer, we would do the $100 walkthrough to say, okay, this is what the report says, and
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
so agents will do the pre-list inspection. It sounds like you're selling the house pre-certified, like the car pre-certified.
Right.
But still, the buyer may want their own opinion on it, and that's what we would give them.
Yeah, that's
like that.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.